Well, good morning and welcome to the Iowa City Area Business Partnership Candidate Forum with Theresa Greenfield. I'm Jennifer Banta, Vice President of Advocacy and Community Development. I'm your host for today's forum. On behalf of our members, thank you so much, Theresa, for joining us. We're glad that you're here. Theresa worked as an urban planner and has worked in real estate and development in Des Moines after receiving her degree from the University of Minnesota Mankato. Most recently, Ms. Greenfield was the president of Colby Interests. Ms. Greenfield is the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate. And the purpose of today's forum is to provide a venue for our members to hear from you and your agenda, and to allow time for questions and just get to know us a little bit better. Our business community is really struggling right now, trying to keep their head above water because of COVID-19 and sort of all the domino effects that we've had from that. And this election, I think, feels more important than ever. So I feel like we say that every election, but I think that it's true this time. So the Iowa City Area Business Partnership and the Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance work together for the good of our entire region. So we collaborate with over 2,000 combined business members and other partners to advocate for policy vital to our region's success. And since the global pandemic, and now with a major disaster declaration due to the derecho, we have shifted our focus to economic recovery and just continue to advocate for strong policy in regards to workforce development, business development, and lastly, and probably most importantly, community development. So the format of today's forum will be Q&A. Please click on the chat box for all of you that have tuned in and ask a question. I will be keeping track of those questions and get to as many as we have time for. So with that, Theresa, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to give you some time to introduce yourself and tell us more about why you're running and your ideas for recovery.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Jennifer, thank you for the invitation. Thank you all for coming out today. I am looking forward to our conversation. I'm looking forward to learning from you. I've done over 250 events around the state of Iowa. And the best part is meeting people and hearing what their needs are. And that, I think, will help inform me and make me the best leader that I can be for you in the United States Senate. I got to tell you, I always tell people all the time that Iowa is a state of small towns and small businesses. You might hear me say it throughout today's meeting. And I think that whether you live in a small town or a big city, people are working hard. And right now, they really are getting the short end of the stick. And they are struggling for all kinds of reasons. I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm a businesswoman. I have worked much of my career in small business, from running bean walking crews back on the farm to working my way up to being most recently the president of a small commercial real estate company where we had about 8 employees. They become like family. We had about maybe a little under 400 tenants, all small businesses. And I have a real passion for helping them through tough times, because sometimes they're very tough, and good times too, and helping them be successful. I'm a mother of 4, empty nester at that, and a military mom. My youngest son serves in the Army. I'm proud of everyone that serves. And I'm a farm kid, a scrappy farm kid. I grew up on a little farm outside a town of 500. I came of age during the farm crisis when interest rates were 21%. And I saw my family's fortunes change. We didn't go on vacation anymore. As a matter of fact, my parents, like so many families in our area, had to sell their crop dusting business. They had to sell their hogs. They never farmed again. And all 5 of us kids left the rural area. It was devastating times. Today in Iowa, between haphazard trade, reckless tariffs, what I call the Ernst ethanol policies, and certainly the derecho on top of it, and COVID. But prior to COVID, net farm income was down 75%. Bankruptcy rates are at an 8-year high, and all of that filters right on down to our main streets, our small businesses, and our manufacturers, who have, of course, laid off many folks due to those tough choices John Deere, for example, has downgraded their earnings. And so this just filters out through our whole community and our business development. And so I have a real passion for that. I got in the race for personal reasons too. And for me, that's Social Security. I have to tell you, I was widowed at the age of 24. And when my first husband, who was a union worker, died in a workplace accident, I became a single mom with a 13-month-old and another one on the way. And I'll tell you, it was those hard-earned Social Security benefits and his unit benefits that gave me a chance to get started again, get back to college, gain some skills, and get on my way to providing for the family and having that dignity of making sure we had milk in the refrigerator every single day. So I'm pretty passionate about all of those things. I know right now that COVID-19 has been such an incredible disruption, not only to our health, because it has been, but to everything. I think it's going to be one of the most consequential events of our lifetime, whether it's trade, whether it's your business, whether it's education, whether it's travel. But of course, our healthcare system and individuals' health and lives have been lost due to it. And you throw on top of that derecho, and of course, folks are really struggling. I have been out visiting with small businesses, and I have to tell you, most of them that I talk to, their cash flow is still down 60%. And I don't care if it's a brewery, a bowling alley, lots of little Main Street businesses, that's what they're talking about. And of course, those businesses that are minority owned are suffering even more. And we've had the chance to visit with a few of them. I've visited with daycare providers to learn more about their challenges because we absolutely have a childcare crisis before COVID. I've been calling for months for Washington to pass a phase 4 stimulus package. I believe some type of, is it called a skinny package, might be on the floor today. But I'll tell you, I think any phase 4 package, because we are in a crisis right now, needs to include more support for workers and those that are unemployed, expanding those unemployment benefits, direct payments, more support for the small businesses, PPP. I want to make sure, though, I would be making sure that really getting to Iowa's small businesses, getting to our minority businesses, the ones that maybe don't have regular banking relationships that need that help to survive. We've got to get some direct support to our local governments and state governments again. I have had the chance to talk to mayors all across the state in towns with 386 people population to the largest cities in this state. And I don't care, by the way, if those mayors are Republican or Democrat. You know, they're fighting for their community all the time for all people. And as someone who worked in community planning for 14 years, you know that those potholes in the street, they're not Republican or Democratic problems. They're problems that need to be solved. And every one of those mayors is looking for some support because they're struggling to make payroll and keep our first responders on the job and keep our communities safe. I've issued a couple plans addressing economic opportunities. One's called Fair Shot for Farmers. I'm not going to go into that one a lot today, but it does really focus on a lot of rural opportunity, but also investment in research on how we can grow the business community in this state. I'm really fired up about bio-based manufacturing. But the other one I called Small Towns and Bigger Paychecks, because everybody wants to make more money, right? And it has 3 elements that I really will visit with you about, and I think will come up as part of our conversation today. Focusing on workforce development. I went to Iowa Lakes Community College. I'm the product of Governor Bob Ray, where we really invested into education. We saw that as an investment for the long term. I came out of that freshman year with not one dime in debt. Got a little job at Pizza Hut, and I was able to pay my bills and, you know, go out on the weekends with my friends. But that's because it was affordable and I didn't have that debt, and it allowed me to get on with my career. We need to make sure that community college, trade schools, technical schools are debt-free so that every student has a path and the opportunity to get those first set of skills. Might be all the skills they need, but certainly get that first set of skills so they can get on to living wage jobs, starting their own small businesses. And if they want to get onto a 4-year college, that's good too. But I want to make sure every student has that first set of skill building opportunities in a really debt-free manner. I also talk a lot about apprenticeships, internships, and ways to make sure that folks can get on to gaining the skills they need. And then we have to pair that with resources for our small businesses to grow. Half of our small businesses in this state don't have access to credit and capital to be able to go through the ups and downs of more than a month, maybe two, of cash flow that declines for whatever reason. And we have to make sure that we find more capital, more credit, so we can grow these small businesses. Now, here's a great example. I was out in Rembrandt, Iowa, talked to a young student. She is going to Iowa Lakes Community College, so we were kindred spirits, in Estherville, and she's studying early family childhood education, and she wants to own and open a daycare center. And so I visited with her about some of the challenges, but some of the opportunities. But right there, we've got a workforce that's being educated, and we have to make sure that when she comes out, there's ways for her to start that daycare center and meet a need that we have across this state. And then finally, infrastructure. And here's something I've certainly been frustrated with both parties on. We need a robust infrastructure plan. We are 50th in the nation in bridge suitability. 1 in 5 of Iowa's bridges are deficient. Those, again, are not Republican or Democratic bridges. They're broken bridges. And we need everything from bridges to broadband internet. And COVID has shown, certainly put a spotlight on the weaknesses of not everyone having access for broadband internet. 2 other things I just want to plug here a little bit. One is Buy America. You know, we have a tax code that has allowed a lot of corporations to skirt our Buy America requirements. And we need to make sure that we're closing those loopholes. We need to be exporting our products, not our jobs, and making sure that we're enforcing that Buy America. So the businesses across this state that work so hard are going to have their products used right here in our country. And then finally, we have to do a better job at promoting inclusive business development and growth. We have about, again, 15,000 maybe minority businesses across this state. That's not enough. Right here in Polk County where I live, Black business owners are denied loans at twice the rate of the rest of Polk County. We have to bring that to an end and make sure that all businesses are getting access to the capital they need, that all businesses can grow and thrive, and folks can be the entrepreneurs that we want them to be right here. So whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're a plumber, because we have the needs for them, whether you're a brewery owner, you know, we all want the dignity of starting our businesses, the dignity of providing for their families. I have a deep appreciation for that. I'm excited to be running for the United States Senate and look forward to talking to you and hearing how I can support you and your business community as your next senator. So thank you for letting me introduce myself. And Jennifer, let's get the conversation started.
Okay, great. Well, you touched on so many things that are important to our members. So I do have a couple of really quick follow-ups, some questions that are rolling in through the chat as well. I'm going to start off with my standard question that I ask everyone. One of our members' biggest concerns is the lack of bipartisan collaboration and just the tone of politics today. And like you said, the potholes, the bridges, a lot of the issues are not Republican or Democrat issues, and we just don't see people working with the ability of working together to solve problems. You mentioned the 4th stimulus package. That I think that would be filed underneath that, right? So can you tell us, you know, what is your plan for working across the aisle, and how do we kind of maintain a standard of respect in DC?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, 250 events around the state. That comes up everywhere I go. People want the divisiveness to end. You don't get to have that kind of divisiveness and run a successful business, right? Our communities aren't successful if we don't pull together. And we just have to do more of that, like our hometowns. I say that all the time. We got to work in Washington like we do in our hometowns. But it's true. We absolutely have to. Part of the reason I got in this race was to try to do my part to end that kind of divisiveness. I learned it on the job as a community planner, whether, again, it was neighborhood groups or town boards or county boards or city councils, you know, people pulling together, making sure all the stakeholders were at that table, had that invitation to be at that table, worked really hard to work across different thoughts. And you can't just assume just because someone might come from a different perspective that you can't find agreement, because I think you can. And so that is a priority for me. I have not been elected to office, but ending this divisiveness is something that drove me to get in this race. I will tell you, I think some of the reason we have so much of it is we just have too much big money in politics. I've taken a pledge not to accept one dime of corporate PAC donations, and I'm a businesswoman, but I just think we need to get that kind of corporate PAC donations out of our politics, because the donations from corporations and their PACs are to influence. And I don't want that kind of influence. I want to be able to represent Iowans, which, by the way, includes corporations, of course, but I want to put Iowa first and be thinking always, is this in the best interest for Iowans?
Absolutely. Okay. And so now you talked about just some of the challenges that small business owners experience. And we have a pretty hefty one when we talk about health insurance. So we have a question here. My company's health insurance has increased over 20% per year for 5 years since 2015. What cost $1 in 2015 costs $2.50 today. The rate of increase threatens my business and the jobs that go with it. What action steps can we take to address rising healthcare costs?
Mm-hmm. Healthcare is the #1 topic I hear about, and it is premiums, deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses. It's folks being gouged for prescription drug costs. It's mental health care, addiction care. It is our hospitals, and having a real appreciation for keeping them in business too. And if you live in a rural area, which I have lots of friends and family that live in the rural area, you know, those hospitals are employers, they're community centers, and they provide those critical healthcare services. When it comes to health insurance, that cost comes up. And whether I have talked to, again, a bowling alley owner, a restaurant owner in Grinnell, you know, they lay awake at night worried about their health insurance. For me, I believe healthcare is a right. We have got to find a way to make sure everyone is getting high quality, affordable care. I want to see us enhance and expand the Affordable Care Act, making sure that everyone has access. I think part of that is building a public option into that and creating some of that competition, and hopefully that will help bring prices down, absolutely. And then we have got to look big pharma in the eye and do things like, one, allow Medicare to negotiate for prescription drug costs and bring those costs down. It's estimated we can save about $500 billion by just doing that, which the VA already does negotiate, and others. So there's a lot of things we can do. It is the #1 topic that I hear about, whether it's coming from a small business or whether it's coming from just your everyday Iowan farmers who are paying $26,000 a year in premiums and then still have a $5,000 deductible on top of it. So it is something that's going to take hard work. The answer is that we have to pull together to improve our healthcare system and lower those costs for all of us.
Yes, I agree. That seems to be a repeat question that we have here at the business partnership too. So,
Yeah.
My next question, since you mentioned infrastructure, wanted to talk a little bit more about funding for transportation infrastructure. You discussed bridges. The question might be more around what can we do to stimulate the economy through an infrastructure package. I think that would be a wonderful, double prong win here. So can you talk a little bit more about infrastructure, specifically transportation?
Well, as I mentioned, this is something I poo-poo both parties for, dang it, because I think that communities, individuals, our businesses, we get caught in the middle. when they're not willing to lead and pass a robust infrastructure plan, and we need to get that job done. I do believe that it is going to be one of the ways that we build our way out of this economic downturn. And like many of you, investing in those kind of capital improvements are just that, they're an investment. The rate at which we can borrow the funds to do transportation planning and improvements is incredibly low and will reap benefits for us for generations to come. And I hear from folks in Davenport who want lock and dams rebuilt, for example. But that helps the farmer up in O'Brien County too, by the way, or someone that's shipping there. I hear from cities that need levees built. And it's not just the funding, by the way, though, I will tell you, it's also working hard to cut the red tape and the regulation that goes with getting those projects approved and through the design process. I talked to a mayor that it took them 12 years to get an overpass on an interstate approved. 12 years working with the federal government on it. It just shouldn't take that long. We don't have that kind of time to wait to make improvements that help our communities grow, but also provide some resiliency, whether you've had flooding, which I know the east side of the state has struggled with, but so has the west side, particularly the southwest portion of the state. Lots of flooding there with the Missouri River and their levees that have failed. So for me, we have to make that investment, and I think it's an investment that, again, will help us get out of this economic crisis and provide the infrastructure improvements and transportation improvements we need.
Yes, and so you just mentioned flooding. So my next question here, and I'm going to expand on this question a little bit. What is your position on climate change as a real phenomenon or a hoax? And then I'm going to take it a step further and ask, how can we utilize climate change as an economic driver? I feel like there are ways that we can use sustainable energy as a way of kind of rebuilding our economy after the pandemic. So can you give me some thoughts on that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, Jennifer, great question. We have to confront climate change. The science is very clear that we have a man-made global climate crisis. I think we need to take urgent action. For me, it starts really high up. We have got to get back into working with our global neighbors on reducing our carbon footprint. We can do that. But I also think about what we can do right here in Iowa. And I'll tell you what, I am optimistic to no end about the economic possibilities and benefits for Iowa. One, I'm going to use wind energy as one example, where we now provide about 50% of our electricity through wind energy. We got wind here that we could be exporting, helping the whole country get their electricity through wind, but also creating more jobs and growing our economy here. And that's just one. We have to invest in our biofuels. We have to end the small refinery exemptions. We have to restore the RFS, but then we have to invest in research to make sure that we move to some low carbon biofuels, that we continue to grow that economy into one. Maybe it's aviation, maybe it's our naval fleets. There are lots of opportunities for our biofuels industry. Next, of course, I think about just research in general. And if you go to my Fair Shot for Farmers plan, one of the things I talk about is conservation. We have an awful lot of land here. It's an amazing resource, but it's a resource that can help us sequester carbon and take action. And to do that, I think we have to make conservation the next commodity, the new commodity. It has to be an economic driver for our landowners, for our farmers, so that those of us, all of us, who benefit from that carbon sequestration and that soil health improvements, that farmers and our landowners are getting the benefit from it. And we're all going to win and create more jobs. But we have to take urgent climate action.
Well, thank you for that. And I know that our time is kind of wrapping up here. So I wanted to allow you to have a few minutes to leave us with your final thoughts and really just tell us why we should vote for you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I love talking business, so I hope to come back anytime. I hope to earn your votes in this election. I think that you'll find not only am I pretty common sense and pragmatic, but I'm very practical. I intend to bring my experiences from being a scrappy farm kid, going through tough times on the farm, tough times as a young mom, someone who had to get back as an adult and get some new skills and retraining, someone who's relied on childcare, someone who's run businesses through great recessions, run businesses through a good economic times, someone that can be a real voice to Iowans. And ultimately, I want you to know that I got in this fight to put Iowa first. And I'm not taking one dime of corporate PAC donations because I truly want to represent Iowans. So I'm excited to roll up my sleeves and be your next senator. And thank you for letting me be here today.
Well, and thank you for joining us today. I want to also thank our attendees for joining us and
Thank
for
you, everybody.
the wonderful questions I always get. I didn't get to everything, but we had a shorter amount of time today. So I think what I will do is send you the rest of the questions so that you can kind of see what else our members are thinking about, because I think the questions are really reflective of some of their biggest concerns as business owners. So as I mentioned earlier, this has been recorded and it will be going up onto our website and through our social media here at the end of September. I'd like to encourage all of you to request an absentee ballot. I know that we have a lot of absentee ballots coming into our mailbox right now. So fill them out and get those sent back. And thank you again for joining us today. It was a pleasure to spend some time with you, and I hope that you'll be able to join us again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Be well, everyone. Be well. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.